All right, hello and welcome to another episode. So today we're going to talk about more mental safety behaviors. Specifically, we're going to talk about thought suppression and thought replacement. And so, for those of you that don't know me, my name's Matt, and I'm the founder of Restored Minds and the creator of the AAA Response. And so, on this series, we're really going in depth into mental safety behaviors or mental compulsions. Really, any behaviors you're doing that are maybe keeping that OCD and anxiety loop going, right? Obviously, that's the premise of this show, right? With OCD and anxiety, and really anything on that stress continuum. So everything from social anxiety to phobias to general anxiety to PTSD, all the way to things like derealization and depersonalization, right? And kind of everything in between. So that stress spectrum, really manifests in so many different ways. And so it's really about when we are caught in that loop, understanding what we're doing that's perpetuating that loop. And one of the biggest things that I see people do and that I did myself for a long time were mental safety behaviors. And which is why I wanted to make this series on it, because once you understand mental safety behaviors and you really work to eliminate that and understand all of them really, or when you're doing them, the physical behaviors are usually a lot easier to identify and remove as well. And that will give you much more success on this journey. So also, we really would appreciate your support on the show by liking and subscribing, as well as leaving a review on iTunes or Google Podcast, because that just helps the overall show and helps our algorithm. So we really would appreciate your support with that. So let's go ahead and dive in. So I'm going to talk about two in this episode, right? Thought suppression and thought replacement. And generally, when we're using these kind of mental behaviors, we're talking about more intrusive thoughts, right? But not in every case, right? I mean, really, what we're really talking about here is just you battling the automatic thoughts that are popping up. And we're going to talk about two variations on how people do that. So let's start with the first one, which is thought suppression. And thought suppression is really the idea that you are trying to, again, push down or push away the thought, right? To suppress something, right? And to kind of bottle it down, right? Or bottle it up, right? Push it down. When we suppress an emotion, like, right, we're pushing it down. We're kind of like, I don't want to feel this right now. And we're not giving it its space. Same kind of thing with thought, right? I don't want to think this right now. I don't want this thought in my awareness. So we're attempting to suppress. Now, interestingly enough, right, when we suppress thoughts, it actually makes them worse, right? And there's a whole series of studies in the 80s and 90s by Dr. Daniel Wagner. He wrote about them extensively in his book, White Bears and Other Unwanted Thoughts. Cool little read if you guys wanted to check out that deeper. And again, I talk a lot about that, obviously, in the 12-week program. We go in depth into that. So that's another place you could learn more on it, on taking back control. But, in the studies, to kind of just briefly summarize, what Dr. Wagner did was he would essentially kind of bring people into a room, and again, I'm very much paraphrasing because I don't remember exactly how the studies were conducted, but I'm going to give you the kind of high overview. And he would say, hey, let's set a 10-minute or 15-minute timer. And he'd say, look, for the next 10, 15 minutes, you can do whatever you want. Just don't think about a white bear. Right. And the idea was to get them to purposely start suppressing the thought of a white bear. Now, notice, just by me saying, don't think of a white bear, what's the first thing that pops into your mind, right? The image of a white bear, because, on a subconscious level, your subconscious doesn't really understand don't, right? Or negative, right? So when you say don't think of a white bear, it just is like, think of a white bear, right? It almost creates it, right? And this is kind of what he found, was that when you are trying not to think of something, there's two parts of your brain that are working against each other. So one is like an alarm system that fires off if it notices the presence of the thought you're not trying to think. And the other is kind of scanning for that thought. But by scanning for the thought, you are indirectly creating it and then setting off the alarm, right? So this whole paradoxical effect takes place. And this is what he called the ironic process, because what he found is that as the people in the studies tried not to think about white bears, the more they thought about them. So they were asked to keep track of them. And then what happened is the participants reported not only having thoughts during the study, but then they kept thinking about white bears outside of the study. And some even went as far as having dreams of white bears, which is really fascinating, because it's like when people get really caught up in the idea of I had these dreams about my fears, and I usually am like, well, yeah, it probably means that you were really suppressing a lot of thought. And essentially, since thought is just energy, you suppress energy enough, it has to just come up, right? Whether that's in dream or whether that's in, our day-to-day life, which is why thoughts aren't meant to be suppressed. And when we suppress them, we're actually going to create that thought and actually have it surface more in our mind. And that was the ironic process that Wagner talks about. But really, thought suppression serves as a safety behavior, right? Which just, again, validates the idea that the thought is dangerous. So thought suppression really ramps up intrusive thoughts. In my experience, is that, if there's certain behaviors that really kind of get intrusive thoughts running quick and populating very fast, thought suppression and thought replacement would probably be the two that I would say really kind of like ramp up someone's symptoms. And the reason is because not only is thought suppression, activating what Daniel Wagner called the ironic process, but also, right, you're spinning that wheel at the same time, right? So there's kind of like this double effect going on. Hope that makes sense right there. So thought suppression, again, a huge safety behavior. Thought replacement, very similar, right? But just, almost we're talking about semantics, but it is a little bit of a different behavior. So thought replacement is when you are trying to replace a quote bad thought with a good thought or something you want to think about, right? So you have the automatic intrusive thought that comes up. What if this? It could be an image. And then when you go and say, hey, I want to replace it with this, that act is still suppressing the initial thought, right? And so that's where, when you're trying to push the thought away or replace it with something, and that's why I want to just cover both of these in this episode, that act is still validating the idea that the thought is dangerous, shouldn't be experienced, which again validates it as a threat to the nervous system. So the brain keeps producing it and the nervous system keeps responding and that loop keeps spinning. But these acts, it's important to understand that these acts are mental behaviors that are done in response to the automatic thought that came up, right? So when the intrusive thought surfaced, that mental behavior of trying to suppress the thought, the mental behavior of trying to replace the thought, both serve to feed that loop. And people can literally do this all day long, just suppressing, replacing. And what they think is that this is just part of the obsession, but really it's a direct behavior they're doing in reaction to the initial intrusive thought that surfaced. So it's important that we understand that, because if you are engaging in that behavior, it's feeding that loop, right? And this is why the mental safety behaviors, again, as we keep emphasizing in this series, are often the things that keep people stuck, because they don't realize that they're doing behaviors, because they're just happening in their mind. So hope that helps clarify what those two mental safety behaviors are. And again, if you're looking for help, if you're caught in the loop or looking for help getting out, please check out the links below. We have a free guide to start. And then we also have a workshop you can attend to really kind of help you understand the recovery process from a real 30,000 foot level. And then we also have our 12-week program and group coaching programs to help you as well. So you're not alone on this journey. If this is something you're struggling with, you can break out. I mean, that's the thing that I really want to emphasize here. It's just a matter of you have to understand how the loop works. You have to understand what you're doing that's keeping you stuck in that loop. And a lot of times it's these mental behaviors that keep us stuck because simply we don't realize we're doing them. So with that said, hope this was a helpful episode. check out the links in the notes if you are looking for more resources. Also, you can reach out to us at restoredminds.com and to learn more about some different services that we can provide. So thank you guys. Wish you guys a great week as always, and look forward to seeing you on the next episode. Take care. Thank you so much for watching that video. And so if you're struggling with OCD and anxiety, I just wanted to let you know that we have a free training for you over at Restored Minds, where you can start learning how to use our AAA response to really break out of that loop and ultimately take back control of your life. And all you need to do to access is just click the little link below and you'll be taken to a page where you can register today. Thank you so much.